Factor Podcast. What is up, lacrosse fans? You are watching another episode of the Lax Factor Lacrosse Podcast, and today we are doing another weekend recap show, and we're going to talk about Maryland and Richmond, St. John's and Rutgers, UMass and Army, as well as a couple of other games. Before I get into it, as always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and really smash that like button. And you can go to laxfactor.com if you want to support the channel. Beyond that, you can buy hats, t-shirts, there's a hat, mugs, whatever to support the channel. So let us get into this. We are talking about Maryland and Richmond first. And I had pictured Maryland maybe taking it to Richmond by 4, 5, 6 goals, could even be by a larger margin than that. I thought Maryland might fill it up, and it was the exact opposite of that. Mitch Savoca, he helps Richmond jump out to a 2-goal lead. Things seesawed from there, seeing Richmond take a 4-2 lead before Maryland tied things up at 4s with 6 seconds left in the first quarter off a Bubba Fairman goal down the left alley. Over the next two quarters, Richmond, they'd slowly but surely extend their lead to 12-7. And at one, I think I left my house and the score was 12-7. And I had no idea how it was going to end, except that I thought Richmond probably had the game under control. There was 12-7 with 35 seconds to go in the fourth. Tate Gallagher scored that goal. So at that point, I'm thinking, probably okay. Maryland or Richmond probably has this. I was surprised. I'm getting texts from Maryland haters, all of them saying that they hope to God that Maryland blows this game and they lose. And I'm a little torn when it comes to teams getting upset. I like seeing Duke get upset early, but I don't want to see Duke get upset later in the season unless it's by Syracuse and, things like that. I have teams that I cover them so much because they're the popular teams for the most part to cover that I kind of, become some kind of closet fan. And Maryland, oddly enough, has become one of those teams for me. It's 12-7, 35 seconds to go. Tate Gallagher scores, and that's left in the third. Start the fourth quarter. Richmond has to be feeling pretty good. They have a 12-7 lead. Everything's cool, but it was not cool. The wheels came off from there. Wisnauskas started out scoring a goal to start the Maryland run and then finished regulation with the game's final 2 assists, both to Bernhardt to help knot the score up at 12s. And Wisnauskas, him and Bernhardt typically get going when they have to. DeMaio was involved in that as well. So, Wisnauskas and Bernhardt factored heavily in that comeback towards the end of the game. 12-7, they tie it up 12-12, and then Wisnauskas, he would get one more assist on the day, this time to Anthony DeMaio for the game winner in overtime, and then insanity took place after that. Both goalies had very subpar days. Brandow and Rustbolt, both of them were under 50% on the day, aka both of them gave up more goals than they saved. Maryland, Wisnauskas was 3-4 on the day, DeMaio 2-3, and Bernhardt 3-1. So all of the known quantities for Maryland factored. And then Richmond, same thing. The guys that Richmond needed to step up did so. Lanchberry, a goal and 3 helpers. Tate Gallagher, 2-2. Richie Connell, 3-1. Mitch Savoca had a hat trick. So it was a hell of a game. Maryland was the best by a very, very fine margin. They get past Richmond just barely. We almost had another upset on our hands after having Air Force beat Duke in the first week of play, week 0. So it would have been exciting, would have been cool if Richmond had knocked off Maryland just for college lacrosse in general. But I know Maryland is really happy that did not happen. And once again, SoCon showing that they're tough. And once again, it's High Point, they get beat up by Maryland. High Point then goes and gets beat up by Duke. Richmond hangs tough with Maryland, and Richmond played Maryland tough last year, but it does look like, where a lot of people, including myself, thought High Point might be closing that gap between themselves and Richmond. Maybe not. Maybe Richmond is still the team to beat in the SoCon. And if this Maryland game was any indicator, Richmond is going to be a really, really good lacrosse team. And the SoCon is now put on notice. St. John's at Rutgers, and Rutgers ended up putting the smackdown on them 17-10, but it was a much closer game not a much closer game, but a slightly closer game than that. St. John's, they managed to keep it close early, tying it up at threes off the opening faceoff of the second quarter. Ethan Rawl and Ryan Gallagher each tallied to increase that spread to 6-3, and Rutgers, they never looked back from there. I think it went to 6-4, maybe even 7-5, and then they just continued slowly but surely to build that spread to a 17-10 win. So St. John's drops to 0-1. Rutgers is now 2-0, and they didn't get to 20. They didn't get to 20 goals. As I said, it seems that all the Big Ten teams are trying to get themselves to 20 goals, but they did get to 17, and St. John's, they didn't look terrible either outside of a couple of things. Well, Adam Charlambides, he had a huge day, 6 goals, 1 dish. He played great across the board, and he was ridiculously efficient, 11 shots. Ryan Gallagher also had a nice day. He went for 4 goals and a helper. Again, very efficient with just 5 shots. All 5 were on cage. 4 of them went in. One of the reasons the Rutgers shooters were so damn efficient is the St. John's keeper had a terrible day. 6 saves versus 17 goals against. And I'm actually surprised you didn't see him get yanked. He didn't get yanked. They didn't play another keeper. This kid just ate shit for 4 quarters against Rutgers and barely saved anything. And I did watch it, and while I watched it, it didn't seem like he only had that many saves. And it didn't seem like the St. John's defense put him in just terrible situation after terrible situation. But hey, the numbers don't lie. Defensively, Steven Russo for Rutgers, Steven Russo, the goalie for Rutgers, he put up 14 saves versus just 10 goals against. And Garrett Bullitt, defender for Rutgers, he had 3 caused turnovers and 6 ground balls. So no wonder Rutgers beat St. John's, a New Jersey foe of theirs, but ended up being decent game, decent outing for both teams, and Rutgers is looking good. So they're just trying to make sure that they stay in the middle to upper side of the Big Ten, make the tournament, and have a chance at making the NCAA tournament. One game that I got totally wrong, UMass and Army. UMass at Army. Last year, this was a very close game, and I honestly I actually picked UMass to win this game by a goal. I think I set the spread at UMass minus 1.5. For this one. And the way I looked at it was that UMass brought back a lot of talent offensively. Army brought back a lot of talent offensively. Both teams lost All-American goaltenders. Both teams had lost key pieces here and there. But, the idea being, I felt Army lost a little bit more on defense than UMass did. Turns out, man, I was wrong, or something is different with UMass, because Army roached them 17-4. They jumped out to a 9-0 lead by the half and never looked back. Obviously, Brendan Nickturn, 4 goals and 3 assists. That kid is nasty. Sean O'Brien, 3 goals and a helper. Wyatt Schuler, the goalie for Army, the kid that's stepping in for Beretta, the All-American, their starter. I believe he was a 4-year starter at Army. 13 saves versus just 4 goals against, so that keeper looked tough. And Marcus Hudgens, 3 caused turnovers and 3 ground balls on the defensive side of the ball for Army. So Army put the smack down on a very good UMass team. And as I'm talking about this now, they just beat New Jersey IT. I think it was 19-1 or something like that. So now Army's 2-0 after getting a win here Monday night. This is Monday night that I'm talking about this, and they already played. So they beat up on New Jersey IT and only gave up a goal. So they only give up 4 goals to UMass, put up 17. They scored 19 on New Jersey IT and only give up 1. So Army is looking really tough at this point. Another game I wanted to talk about quick, simply because I was interested to see what they would do offensively. Georgetown played Lafayette. Now, granted, Lafayette not looking too hot at this stage, 0-2, and they've gotten trounced in both games. But Georgetown, 17-3. Jake Caraway, known quantity. He goes 4-1. Robert Clark, 1-5, and Dylan Watson, 6-1. They're the guys that put up the bulk of the points, and then it was just a bunch of guys putting up goals through the roster. Owen McElroy, the goalkeeper, looks like he got. It's hard to say who actually got the start even in here. Noah Klein played. He had 2 saves, 1 goal against, and Owen McElroy, for some reason, I think he was the starter. He had 3 saves, 2 goals against. But either way, Georgetown beat up on Lafayette, and it'll be interesting to see once they play a pretty weak schedule usually, and I always crush them for that. But offensively, it'll be interesting to see how they do in terms of replacing the guys that they lost. And then another game I wanted to talk about was the Air Force and Denver game. Air Force coming off the big win over Duke, and now they have to play Denver, obviously, at Denver. And Denver is always tough. They always play each other pretty decent. And I was hoping we could see another upset and Air Force could get themselves to 2-0. But Denver, handled their business, I should say. 13-7 win. So Denver's now 1-0. Air Force drops to 1-1. And J.J. Silstrop, the freshman for Denver, he put up 5 goals in his debut. I had said Ethan Walker was going to put up 5 goals. I was wrong. Hey, sometimes I'm wrong. Ethan Walker was 2-1. Jungle Jack Hanna, 1-3, and then a couple of guys filled it out. Cole French, keeper, he put up 10 saves for Denver, 7 goals against. And the Brandon Host, the Air Force goalie, 21 saves on the day. So he stood on his head just to keep the score what it was. 13 goals against, but 21 saves. So that kid has had 2 really, really solid games to start the season out for Air Force. So that is a good sign for them. And that is it. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, go to laxfactor.com, and you can get yourself some swag, hats, t-shirts, coffee mugs, whatever else you want to get. We'll probably put out our Player of the Week video tomorrow, Wednesday. I'll announce tomorrow is Tuesday. I keep forgetting. I'm thinking like it's Tuesday because I'm pretending that today is Tuesday because that's the day you're seeing this. But we'll put out our Player of the Week video on Wednesday, so be sure to come back and see that as well. It'll be both an audio podcast and Player of the Week video. And that is it. Hoost is out.